I think that when I approach PTSD, I have to look at it and treat it as two things. I have to treat it as a fear or a phobia, and I have to treat it as its own individual state of trance. Every single person in the universe goes into a hypnotic state of trance. They've done it a million times before, whether they realize it or not. Daydreaming is an example of this. PTSD is its own version of trance. It's a negative version.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Carpe Diem Living the Podcast. I am your host, Shane Gitmed, and today we have a guest from New York. He's currently there right now, so he's 3 hours ahead of me, and we have Joshua on the show. So welcome to the show.
Thanks.
So Joshua is a certified hypnotist, and this is our first hypnotist on the show ever. So I'm super curious on what does that look like for you, being a certified hypnotist?
I guess I see things in a little bit of a different way than other people do, just because I do and am more aware of things like how people interact socially and ways to, I guess, for lack of a better word, how people manipulate other people and vice versa. Not that manipulation is bad. We put a dirty connotation to that, but manipulation isn't a bad thing because there's a good kind of manipulation too.
Okay, and I'm curious, how did you get into becoming a certified hypnotist?
So I started doing magic. I've been doing magic for about 10 years. I specialize in close-up magic and I perform all over. I performed in Vegas, I performed in California. So it's been all over and I love it. And about 3 years ago, I talked with a mentalist and hypnotist named Spidey. And he said, get my DVD. It'll show you everything you need to know to start your hypnosis show. I did. I learned everything I needed to. And about 2 or 3 months later, I hypnotized my first two people. Now that was it was really a lot of fun, very surprising, and instantly I was hooked. It was about maybe 10 months later, maybe a little more or less, give or take, that I learned about the therapeutic side of it. And learning that you can change things with just by changing your mindset and then by helping people change their mindset and reframe things, for example, like fears and phobias or stress, anxiety, and triggers and whatnot, it really opened up a whole new side of hypnosis for me because there's a side I get to perform and I get to have people do funny things like have their hands stuck to their head or have them forget their own name. But then by learning about the therapeutic side, it opened up a whole new doorway of me able to help people. And I've always wanted to help people. I've always helped people, but all I could ever really do was talk and give advice. And now I can do that, but I also have a tool that I can use to help people overcome the things that may impact them negatively.
I love that. I love that it started out as something fun, for entertainment, performing, and then you find just a different side of it and where it could really be beneficial for people that you know, clients. That's a very interesting angle that you've created because I mean, when you hear hypnotist, you just think of magic. They're dance like a chicken or stand on one leg and like things like that. So I remember the first time I saw a hypnotist, it was actually during my senior year of high school. And we had like this senior trip, and there was a hypnotist, and there were people that volunteered to go on stage, and they were doing all kinds of stuff. So I always wonder, I'm like, are they really being controlled, or are they choosing to do it? You don't know unless you've actually put yourself in those shoes. One day I'll work the guts to do that because I guess the part of it when you're on the receiving end is like, yeah, can I control myself? Like, am I aware of what's going on? Because yeah, I think that's what most people are afraid of when they hear the word. So how long have you been doing the therapeutic side of hypnotist type work?
I've been doing the therapeutic side for about, I would say, 3 years, and I absolutely love it. I got certified 2 years ago. It's been a crazy, crazy journey, especially recently. It's been rough and harder because COVID hit and everything. But it's the things I've been able to do and help people with. It's just been incredible.
Absolutely. And just knowing that you're making an impact, a positive impact, is just the best feeling, right? Is it just as effective doing like a virtual, appointment? Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so good. Essentially, you could work with people from all over the world because then if it can be done, COVID or not, if you can do it in person or video wise, then that's wonderful. So I know you mentioned that you also specialize in helping with PTSD. I guess for me, because so my background is I was once a military spouse. So I've seen and heard of how PTSD affects other people. And it's really difficult for the ones that have the PTSD and then for their family. And for a lot of it, it's like talking therapy, medication, and, with the holistic side of things, the theme of the show is holistic. So natural ways to help with that. So for PTSD, what does that look like as far as the hypnotist side? Like, I don't know if you can share like the specifics on that, but if a person did have PTSD and they came to you, what would that look like as far as helping them?
So there's two kinds of PTSD that I've learned about specifically. There's PTSD and then there's CPTSD. And CPTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, which is more complicated. And the only reason it's complicated is because there are layers to it. Not that I'm saying any other kind of PTSD doesn't have layers to it, but there also may be layers that the person isn't even aware of. I think that when I approach PTSD, I have to look at it and treat it as two things. I have to treat it as a fear or a phobia, and I have to treat it as its own individual state of trance. Every single person in the universe goes into a hypnotic state of trance. They've done it a million times before, whether they realize it or not. Daydreaming is an example of this. PTSD is its own version of trance. It's a negative version. So what I have to do is I have to get any triggers and find the root of the problem, what happened, why it happened. I never have the client relive what happened to them, so it impacts them in the same way it did when it happened. I do have techniques that have them safely, I guess you could say, view what they experienced so it doesn't impact them again and cause more trauma. My fiance actually has DID, dissociative identity disorder. That's what used to be known as multiple personalities. This is kind of CPTSD. It's caused by CPTSD. The DID is a symptom of that. So when I think of complex PTSD, I instantly think of her and how I approached her with helping her and how I approach my clients with that.
Wow, that's so crazy because I guess we don't even think of like PTSD and those types of conditions as layers or how they're connected in some way, like how you said that was a symptom. I mean, I've studied psychology countless times, but I've never known that they were somehow still connected in that way, which is insane. I'm familiar with EMDR. I know that's a type of treatment that does help, but doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, EMDR is where you do relive the this intense memories, and in a way it's kind of like reprogramming. I know it's something along those lines. So uh
So EMDR is it is hypnosis. It's essentially hypnosis. They just call it something different. The EMDR puts the individual into a state of trance, into a state of hypnosis, and then they work with that. A good EMDR practitioner will have them do what I do and not have them relive it, so it impacts them again. Because, like I said, that could cause more trauma. But EMDR is just hypnosis, it just has a different name. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially since the process that's used isn't typical hypnosis where you're talking to them and you're putting them into what some may see as deep sleep, which is not sleep, by the way. So it's the same process, the same thing, it's just a different name. And a good practitioner will know how to handle the client when doing the process and what to do if something were to not go exactly as planned.
wow. Yeah, because I'm even thinking of the phobias aspect, people that are afraid of heights, people that are afraid to fly planes. And for most people, they'll either just take a medication to help with anxiety for it. And I feel like it is so important to, in a sense, like talk about, hypnosis and everything more often so people realize that there's more options out there to get to the root of the issue versus like, oh, I'll just take, I don't know, like Ambien or something just to like not think about it or help me sleep through the flight. Because I've known countless people where they just take certain things to just so they don't think about it. It's like a distraction in a way versus dealing with what they're afraid of. So that's crazy. Out of all of your clients, what is a common, I guess if we talk about phobias, what's a common phobia that you see amongst the people that you work with?
I would say heights is a big one. That was one of the first times I did hypnotherapy. I think the second time. I helped someone with heights. Their airplanes is another one that's pretty common. I think that one of the most common things that I consider a fear of phobia is the fear of being able to love yourself.
Wow.
Because if you think about it, I think there are a lot of people who can appreciate small things about themselves, but to love yourself entirely, that takes time and that takes work. It's something I'm even still working on. It's not something that just happens. And if it just happens for you, then I think you maybe need to go a few layers deeper and figure out maybe why you're so happy and what's happened in the past that's made you so happy. And maybe you'll discover some things that maybe you don't want to, but it'll help you grow. So being able to love yourself, the fear of that, I would say, is the fear of growth and progress and taking chances.
That just went so deep. I didn't realize that that was a fear for most. I mean, we do talk about, self-care, self-love. That's become more normal now to talk about, and the journey of that, because even for sure, me too, like it took time to really love myself after, just years and years and years. But I never thought someone would like do that or work on that through hypnosis. That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I may even sign up for that. Just like, yeah, because that's something like who wouldn't need that, like that's something I feel like every person is working on. So why not? So we talked about common phobias that you see. What's one that you've never dealt with before? Like it's very rare to come across.
I would say one that I've never come across is the fear of, not that it's not there, it's there. I just never come across it myself. And it's probably because I'm always out in the world and stuff. But the one that I've never encountered is where the fear of, I guess, going outside. So I'm always outside, so it's kind of makes sense why I haven't ever really experienced that or have a client who had that fear. Because I mean, they have a fear of going outside, and I'm out all the time. So why would
Yeah.
they encounter me? I guess.
Yeah. Have you seen the show Shameless?
Yeah.
Okay, so like the character in that show, Sheila, that fear of going outside, I remember that and I was just like, gosh, I've never seen that before like from anyone. And I've lived in different areas throughout my life. So I thought for a moment I was like, is that even a real thing? Like how is that? But then as her story unfolds, you start to see like, well, the reason why is because she had that traumatic experience where she was outside and like a bunch of crazy things were happening to her, and to a point where she was like, I just feel safest in my bubble, and that's just it. I mean, honestly, since we're talking about this, I wouldn't be surprised if that type of fear, I mean, eventually if it progresses it could become a phobia, is happening today because of COVID. Maybe someone
Oh,
that, you know what I mean.
mhm.
Yeah. So I feel like that might be a common thing we might start seeing. Because honestly, for a while, I was even afraid of like going. I mean, everyone was afraid of going to the store, but it was to a point where I'm like even afraid to go get my mail, like because you don't know who's out there. You don't know, did the mailman have COVID and touch my mail, put in the mail? It's just so many things. And there were so many videos at the beginning of COVID where when you come home from the grocery store, I don't know about New York, but in my area, they basically were saying Clorox wipes all of your stuff. Like as soon as you bring it home, wipe everything down, and you can't see what these types of viruses, so you just are constantly afraid. So I feel like that may be a thing depending on how long COVID and everything goes on for. But yeah, so do you ever put on any like group events for hypnosis? Like let's say like a group of 10, and then anyone that wants a quick session, like how does that work in group settings?
So what I'll usually do with groups is I won't necessarily do a full formal session. I'll usually do more of a explanation and then I guess 15-minute session at the end just for general stress, anxiety to help people relax and focus. And I'll pretty much explain a lot of what I explained here about hypnosis, what it is, what it isn't, how it can benefit people in different ways, like phobias, pain management, stress, anxiety, depression, a whole plethora of things. And then I'll tell them a little bit about some of the experiences that I've had myself with what I've helped with and how I've helped clients. And then I'll do the little mini 15-minute session.
Got it. So if a person say came to you for something related to anxiety, does it happen like does the effects happen like one and done, or do they need to come back and have follow-up appointments, or once you get to the root then you're good? Like is anxiety like fully gone?
I would say that you have to find the root if you really want to solve something. And that kind of goes for anything, I think, any kind of issue. And as far as how many sessions, there are different levels, I guess, in the sense of how aware people are of the real issue. Because there will be a conscious level, and then there's a subconscious level that we're not even aware of. Not necessarily an unconscious level. Yeah, it's there, but typically it's a subconscious. Because when you put someone in hypnosis or someone goes into hypnosis, you are bypassing their conscious mind, going right into their subconscious mind.
Yeah, I'm sure like if someone, I guess it also depends on the severity of it too, like how long that person's been dealing with, what does it, is it stemming to like other things? Like for me, like I'm surprised I didn't go to hypnosis for this, but when I was little, I was attacked by a dog at a friend's house because I basically entered an area that I wasn't supposed to go to, but I was grabbing my backpack and the dog, of course, being very protective, didn't know me and just attacked me in the dark and from behind. So like I have a scar on my back, all this. So for the longest time, like for most of my childhood, I was afraid of big black dogs. They just looked so terrifying and I just couldn't even go near it. Like instantly stress trigger. But now like about what 6 7 years ago I got my own German Shepherd black dog, and it's like I overcame it just naturally. But I feel like that's definitely like another type of scenario. Like an accident happened, or if someone got into like a really bad car accident and they're afraid of driving, that's like another type of thing. So I'm just thinking of all different types of scenarios. What would people need hypnosis for? So, but I think it's amazing of the work that you're doing, helping so many people. And yeah, and especially you can reach some people virtually right now in this day and age. So I'm just super curious how this is going to grow for you over time with COVID, and just now we're having to do more virtual. Have you ever come across someone that's from another country where they're not so familiar with hypnosis and have any resistance towards this type of work?
So when it comes to people who are resistant towards hypnosis, if they come to me knowing I do hypnosis and they're resistant to it, I will, I guess, put them through a sort of a little interview process, because I don't necessarily want, like, I want to help people, but I don't necessarily want to work with someone who is going to fight me,
Right.
whether
You
it be,
be super open. Mhm.
yeah, like I want them to, first of all, want the help that I provide. I want them to not be frightened, so I try to put them at ease with explaining it a bit. And if I determine that they are not fit for the services I provide, then I will either refer them to someone else, or I will tell them that I just won't do it. I'll just say that I don't think this is a good match.
Got it. And have you ever worked with kids? I'm just wondering, like, even age groups. Is it even possible to work with like a school age child? Would this work for them at that? Or is it better as an adult? There's just so
Oh,
many questions.
kids are usually the best. Kids are the best. They usually go into hypnosis really fast just because they don't have something called a critical factor yet. So they're not really analyzing too much, which is a good thing because it means that their conscious mind isn't really blocking in any way.
That's really interesting, but makes a lot of sense because it's true. Like when you're young, you really don't think too much, or you just do. You don't really think about all the consequences that are tied into it, or like what may happen. You're just like just going for it. That's how my son is. That's why I'm just like, I wonder if like if he ever needed in the future, like is there like an age limit or a minimum of age? So that's really awesome.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no age limit whatsoever. I've done this with kids. I've done it with people in their 60s going on 70s. There was a woman, I was performing at a fair. There was this woman who came up to me. She wanted to know what I was doing. I told her I was performing some magic. I showed her some stuff. She told me she has Parkinson's. Her hand was shaking, her hand was hurting. I did a 15 to 20-minute hypnosis session with her. After that session, her tremors stopped
Stop.
and her pain
Yes.
subsided as well.
That is crazy. I have never heard of that. Is amazing. Are you serious?
That, that one session, that one 20-minute session lasted her for a whole week.
That is huge. Huge. I've never heard someone being able to do that for that type of condition. What okay, so Parkinson's, does this work for Alzheimer's?
It would not surprise me. I haven't done research into that.
Uh-huh.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. If I had to assume, well, first of all, for pain management, when it comes to pain management with hypnosis, it isn't necessarily 100% clear. There's debate on it whether it actually reduces the pain or reduces the individual's ability to feel the pain. My answer is, who cares?
It's just the
The,
fact that it's gone.
yeah. Now, with that said, it can't necessarily, heal it. It can't like heal the condition of that is Parkinson's. It, and maybe the Parkinson's will eventually progress to a point where hypnosis will not be effective, as does with a lot of these kind of progressive diseases. It may be the fact that when I did hypnosis and helped her, it was I connected or disconnected some kind of neuron that was firing for her to feel pain. But if we can think it, we can make it happen.
Just the fact that she got relief through not even a half an hour of working with you, like that is huge. Because I'm just like running through the list, like what possible conditions and diseases that people have that this could make an impact. Like I'm just going down the memory bank. The reason why I ask about Alzheimer's is because I know people that have like really bad like memory issues. So I like wonder if there's just something going on in there. I don't know. Like I'm just like anything is possible, right? So that's why I'm just like, who knows, just ask. But yeah, I would love to follow your work and see like what else you come across, the things you discover through working with different clients from everywhere all over the world. Like this is insane but amazing information and work. So kudos. That's really awesome. Yeah, I would love to, obviously refer people to you that could definitely reap the benefits of this work. And I'm sure our audience is dying to know where they can find you online. So if you'd like to share your website and all the things that you have going on with your hypnotist work.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook, Hypnosis, and then the number 4 and change. So you can find me there on Facebook. On Instagram, you can find me the same way at Hypnosis for Change. And then the email is a little different. The email is Hypnosis for Change, but it's actually the word for. And then after Hypnosis for Change, it's uh, JS. And that's for spelled FOR.
Yeah, no worries. I'll definitely have everything in the description box so people will be able to find you really easily on all your social media. So, oh my gosh, I've learned so much just talking to you about this work. And I just love seeing that the possibilities and the difference that it will make for whatever we're dealing with. This just goes to show how powerful the mind is. And if we can find relief in the slightest way, especially something as natural as this, why not? What do you have to lose? You're going to relieve whatever it is that you're dealing with. So yeah, I love this. And I'm so glad there's people like you that are doing this for people everywhere. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for coming onto the show. I'm so excited for people to hear more about your work. Thank you again, Joshua.
You're welcome. Hope to come back sometime.
For sure.